Welcome back to my channel, my fellow awakening souls. It's great to see you guys here again. I've told you guys I am trying to get back into creating more content, being more present, and being here for you guys because this is kind of something that actually pushes me to be the best version of myself on days where I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. On days when I'm really hard on myself, my content actually pushes me to be the best version of myself. So I actually enjoy making these videos, but that's neither here nor there. So today we're going to be talking about some things that I believe that we should have been taught as kids. And there's a lot more things that I believe we should have been taught, but I'm only going to touch upon three. And if you do have kids, then this is some things that I think you could possibly start to implement in your kids' life now so that they can grow up to be better individuals. If you don't have kids, because I know I myself, I don't have children, this is something you can still watch and start to implement in your life because as Denzel Washington says, each one teach one. So you don't need to have children to still better the world or help us better ourselves as a collective, okay? So anyways, I rambled on long enough. Let's get straight into the video. The first one out of that three would be responsibility. Now, when I say responsibility, I don't mean responsibility in the sense of making your kids do chores or cleaning up after yourself or keeping your home clean or cleaning up after your family if you still live with family. That's not what I mean by responsibility. And I also don't mean looking after your siblings or taking care of family members. That is important in a sense, but that's not what I mean by responsibility. And sadly enough to say, in the melanated community, responsibility is taught via chores or taking care of your siblings. That's how you're taught responsibility for the most part. But what I'm realizing, or what I have realized in the last 1 or 2 years, is that responsibility goes way beyond the scope of watching your siblings or taking care of family members or doing chores or keeping your surroundings clean. It goes beyond that. We have to be more responsible in our day-to-day lives. And one of the things that I think we should be more responsible about is understanding the governing laws around us. And what I mean by that is understanding why things are the way they are where we live currently. What are the statutes, codes, and laws in your state? What are the statutes, codes, and laws in your country? How do they affect you? What do they mean? How can you use them to your advantage? These are such important things that we should learn at a young age that we are not taught. And that's not to blame our parents, because our parents can only teach us what their parents taught them and their parents taught them and so on. But that does not mean it's too late for you to start paying attention now, for you to start implementing these things now. I can tell you guys, in the last 1 or 2 years, I have made so much progress. And the reason I brought up laws is because there's so many advantages to understanding, or better yet, overstanding the laws, statutes, and codes around you. There's still so much for me to learn, but just learning these things have opened up doors for me. And while they do take time to go through them, they've opened up some doors for me, okay? So I will say this. We grow up in communities, in our small towns or in our communities, in our cities, and we're taught, by the people around us. We learn things from the people around us. Most of the time, we don't always learn to go and double check the information that we're being provided. We call mom, we call dad, we call sister, we call brother, cousin, uncle, auntie. We call everyone and we get their opinions and we get to hear their experiences throughout life. And we base our decisions based off our loved ones' experiences throughout life. And that's not to say that they're always wrong in their assessment of how things are. So it's always best to go and do your own research and to unlearn what you were taught as a young child and to relearn and reteach yourself as an adult. I think we should have been taught responsibility in a lot of areas. One is laws, as I just mentioned. Learning why things are happening in your community the way they are happening. Because that's just as important, because it affects you ultimately in the end, the laws, statutes, and codes that are being passed in your area. So basic common sense which is something I don't, or basic critical thinking skills, which is something I don't believe we were taught in school. I don't think school teaches us real critical thinking. I think it teaches us a bunch of bullshit, honestly. Because I really, after graduating, that's when I started really learning. That's when I really started to critically think. Because in school, what they consider critical thinking isn't really critical thinking, more like follow the leader, do as you're told, don't ask questions unless it pertains to what I'm telling you, you know? So that's a whole nother topic for another day. But we also should be taught to take responsibility for our own lives. I'm noticing a lot, especially with my generation, that we do not take responsibility for our lives. We cry and push the blame on other people for things that are happening to us, when 95% of the time the misfortunes that happen in our own lives are due to nobody's fault but ourselves. The decisions that we make in ignorance have a negative consequence for them, and therefore misfortune happens to us. But instead of reflecting back on what we did, what decisions did we make that made this thing happen to us, we decide to say, oh, woe is me, the world is against me, no one is for me, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault, when in all actuality, it was our fault to begin with. We have no sense of responsibility. We have no sense of, let me take responsibility for my own life. Let me put trust in myself. And of course, the creator of the balanced universe, but let me put trust in myself and let me consciously go out into the world and make conscious decisions on what I want to happen into my life so that I can create my life the way that I want to create my life. But instead, I believe we're taught to rely on other people to do their jobs and to do what they're supposed to do in this world. When something bad happens, instead of reflecting on our own decisions, we push the blame upon other people. And that's not to say that things don't happen to other people, misfortunes don't happen to other people who are actually good people. But 95% of the time, the misfortunes that happen in our own lives are due to no one else's fault but our own. We have to pay more attention to the decisions that we are making in our day-to-day. We have to be more mindful. We have to be more responsible. And that goes along with laws, that goes along with cleanliness, that goes along with the decisions that you make. We have to be more responsible. I'm seeing a lot of videos of a lot of people my age that are also looking for other people outside of themselves to validate them. And I have to say, I disagree with that. Stop looking for other people to validate you, to make you feel a certain way. When you become grounded within yourself, when you find yourself, when you remember who you are, you need no other person's validation or opinion. Their opinions will just be that, an opinion. And it would have no effect on you because you remembered who you are. You know who you are. I need you guys to understand that I'm not perfect. I do feel like I'm still trying to find who I am or really remember who I am. You know, I'm still finding myself or remembering myself and trying to show up as my highest self. But what I'm learning at and what I'm getting better at now is being responsible for the decisions that I make, trying to consciously make better decisions for myself so that better things can happen into my life. And also not relying on other people's opinions to make me feel good about myself. If somebody doesn't want to call you a certain thing, so be it. If somebody doesn't like the way you look or like who you are as an individual, that sounds like a personal problem. Long as you like who you are, long as you show up as who you want to be and you are happy with yourself and you are grounded in yourself and you know who you are as an individual, as a being, no one else's opinions, thoughts, questions, concerns matters because you know who you are. So stop letting other people's words make or break you. And of course, this is not something that I expect you to get over overnight, but this is something that you should be working towards. Be responsible for yourself and stop trying to take on the responsibility of others. Show up as your truest self and stop worrying about what other people think. Stop worrying about other people's questions, comments, concerns. That's all that it is. A question, a comment, or a concern. But don't let it make or break you, because you have to remember who you are. You have to show up as who you are, as your truest self. Not everybody is going to like you, but you don't have to surround yourself with other people who don't like you. Not everybody is going to understand you, but you don't have to surround yourself with people that don't understand you. Everything always goes back to self. You make the decisions. You decide who you hang out with. You decide who you want to be. You decide who you are. No one else. The choice always lies with you. So what choices are you going to make? And that'll determine the outcome of your life. When you make fucked up decisions, fucked up things happen in your life. So you can't go around questioning, asking, why is this happening to me? How is this happening to me? Why did I deserve this? What did I do to deserve this? You need to figure out the decisions that you decided upon, and then you'll understand why the things that are happening in your life are happening. So fucked up decisions give you fucked up consequences. Not knowing who you are, not understanding who you are, not remembering who you are makes you feel like you need other people to validate who you are, makes you feel like you need to go out and get other people's opinions, when in all reality, you are you. You are loved. Love yourself more. Be yourself and surround yourself with individuals who you don't have to hide from. Surround yourself with loving people, with kind people, with people who respect you. Choose better, do better, and be better. Ultimately, that's truly what it is. We have to be more responsible in a lot of different areas that we lack responsibility in. And I can't say just you. I lack responsibility in a lot of areas, but I'm learning and I'm pushing myself to be more responsible, because ultimately, I really, truly believe that if a lot of us was taught responsibility in all these areas that are important, responsibility in our finances, understanding our finances, responsibility in understanding the governing laws around our world, understanding ourselves, being responsible and making responsible decisions for ourselves, I do believe the world would be a much better place than what it is now. But, you know, that's just my belief. You don't have to agree with me, but I truly do. Start teaching your kids to be more responsible. Yeah, you want them to be clean. Yes, you want them to keep their surroundings clean. Yes, some kids should have chores. Those things are important. Yes, they should care for their family. Yes, they should care for other people. But ultimately, they need to be responsible for the decisions that they make. They need to make responsible decisions. They need to make sure they understand the world that they're living in, the laws that is governing them and you. And they need to make sure that they are grounded in who they are. Even on your journey to remembering yourself or finding who you are, you can still be grounded on that journey, and no one's opinions, questions, comments, concerns will faze you, even if you're still on that journey to finding yourself, because you're still grounded. You are not who you are just because that is who you are. You are who you are because that is who you choose to be. There's always something new that you can learn. There's always something new that you can start to implement your life to take you to the next level. You know, we're all about growing. We're all about growth and evolving as beings and showing up as our most highest selves. So don't get so caught up in thinking that you are a certain way and you're stuck that way and that you're incapable of changing. That's nothing more than a thought that you put in your mind to make yourself feel like you can't grow beyond who you currently are. And that's not true. You can always grow beyond who you currently are if that is what you choose to do. And I can go on and on regarding the subject of responsibility, because there is a lot of areas that we can learn responsibility in, but we choose not to because we think they're unimportant or we don't realize the importance of them. And that can cause negative or misfortunes to happen into our lives. And then we're stuck there looking confused and not understanding or overstanding what's going on or what happened or how it took place. So our own ignorance is 99% of the time our own downfall, because we are ignorant to a lot of things that we should not be ignorant in. But instead of making the decisions to take responsibility and to start understanding certain subject matters, we choose to ignore them and think they're unimportant and focus on the things that are not important. let's go on to the next thing. So the second thing that I think is important that we should have been taught as kids that we weren't taught is some type of spiritual practice. And what I mean by some type of spiritual practice is basically some grounding practices or rituals that connects us to the creator of all, or God, if you feel more comfortable saying that. But something that connects us to God more, something that connects us to tapping into the higher versions of ourselves more, something that also brings us back to a place of peace and that keeps us in a sense of knowing. A lot of us grew up with no type of spiritual practice, no type of grounding foundation, no principles to base our lives upon. And therefore, we grew up to make some pretty awful decisions, which has had awful consequences in our life. I really feel like if a lot of us in the world grew up with some wholesome, good, loving, light principles, whether on the religious side or on the spiritual side, this world would be a better place than what it is. And what I mean by spiritual practice, I mean like some type of learning to meditate at a young age or learning to take up prayer. Because, you know, they're synonymous with one another to me. Your meditation is another person's prayer. Another person's prayer is your meditation, but you may disagree, and that's okay. But teaching your kids, or we should have been taught ourselves, some type of meditation or prayer to start those things at a young age to connect ourselves with the creator of all, knowing that we are always connected. But that's a way of taking some time out of your day, out of the chaos of the world. Take a moment to breathe and to find peace within yourself, to find a moment to give thanks and appreciation, to find a moment to quiet the mind, to find a moment to find yourself or remember who you are. Meditation, prayer has so many different benefits to it. And really, it all starts with the mind. Beginning or learning to learn those type of things at a young age allows you to grow up to be a better individual and to act with the outer world better, or act with the people that are in this outer world better. What I mean by that is a person who grew up learning how to take a moment to pray or to meditate when they were experiencing overwhelming negative emotions, or the outer world was getting too chaotic, or they were overthinking, any of those things. A person that learned to take a moment out of their time to bring themselves back to a place of peace would really be a person that would grow up and learn how to not take out their anger on other people, or not to lash out at the outer world for things that they are experiencing within inside of them. So if you are a person who tends to lash out at those you love and you don't mean it, you tend to regret it after you do it. If you are a person who doesn't know how to deal with the overthinking and the negative emotions that is going on inside your mind, meditation and prayer are really a great foundation to start to learn how to bring yourself back to a place of peace. Or it's also a great place to start to just have conversations with the creator of all. There are some days where I'm just so overwhelmed because I'm an avid overthinker. I overthink a lot. I overthink everything, and I'm always constantly trying to think of what would happen if I'm in this situation. What happens if I'm in this situation? How would I solve it? What would I do? I need to do this. I need to do that, and it's just so much noise going on that when I take the time to actually just sit down and quiet myself, sometimes nothing playing, I'll just start to talk, and I'll talk to the creator of the balanced universe, and I'll have deep, meaningful conversations, or just deep, meaningful silence. And I feel like I'm at peace and nothing in the world can hurt me. I feel loved, more loved than I did before I sat down. Those are the deepest moments for me. You know, deep down inside within your spirit, when you are truly experiencing a connection with the creator of all. It's something that is beyond words, is beyond describable in words. It's a sense of knowing. And that is something I believe that we should have been taught as kids. And if you wasn't, this is something that we can start to use now and we can start to do now. And if you do have kids, this is something that you can teach them. And this kind of, what really honestly, quick story time, what honestly sparked my thought for this with like teaching your kids to meditate or to pray at a young age, especially when they're throwing tantrums or they're crying and screaming and everything, or they're upset, is I've seen a couple of videos, more than one, of some parents teaching their 5-year olds, 6-year olds, 7-year olds to meditate, to sit down, and they're meditating. Do you know how hard it is to get a 5-year old, 6-year old, 7-year old to sit down and concentrate, to stay still for just 5 minutes, let alone 10? That is amazing. That goes to show you how much practice and time and effort the parents put into their kids. But that's kind of what sparked the idea for me. Like, man, if I was taught this at a younger age, I wonder if it would have made me a better individual, or it would have helped me make better decisions than the decisions I made in the past. If I was able to take moments to have a deeper connection with the creator of all, to take moments to give thanks and to be grateful for even the tiniest things that I have in my life. Because you always have to remember that it's always good to take a moment to be grateful and to give thanks for what you already have, because the creator of all is not going to reward you with more good things if you aren't grateful for the things that you have now, even the tiniest things. So more gratefulness equals more abundance. More happiness equals more good things coming into your life. Learning how to control your emotions, learning how to bring yourself back to a place of peace, ultimately creates a better individual that is better at dealing with the outside world and better at handling not taking their anger out on other people. So that is something I believe we should have been taught. We weren't taught it, of course, or we just didn't take heed to it, that we can start doing now for ourselves. And if you have kids, this is something that you can start teaching your kids now for themselves. Spiritual practices, or spirituality, and religion, followed in the right way, has so many grounding and loving principles that can be used in our everyday lives that would ultimately make us better as beings on this planet, which will ultimately raise the vibration of this planet and ultimately better us as a collective. Find some principles. Remember who you are. Follow those principles. Let them be a guide for how you want to be in the light, and let it help you or aid you in creating the life that you want to live. The most successful people have gotten successful because of the principles that they follow in their life. Everything really, ultimately, when you take a bird's eye view of it, is really principles. What are the principles guiding your life? And can those principles aid you in creating a better life than the one you're currently living? Last but certainly not least, something else that I think that we should have been taught as a kid, or is something that should be taught at the youngest age possible, is how to be comfortable with yourself, how to be comfortable in who you are as a being, as an individual. If we learned how to love ourselves more as kids and be comfortable in who we are as a being, we would grow up to be less confused about who we are and what our place is in this world. We would rely less on other people's opinions. We would rely less on being validated. We wouldn't need other people to tell us who we are or to make us feel like we need their approval. Teach your kids to love themselves at the youngest age possible. Teach your kids to remember who they are and to show up as their truest self at the youngest age possible. And if you weren't taught this as a kid and you don't have kids, just like I myself don't have kids, remember to love yourself. There is nothing wrong with loving yourself and being grounded in who you are as an individual, while still learning to unfold and keep peeling back the newest additions to yourself. And what I mean by that is, you can learn to be grounded and love yourself as a being while still finding yourself, while still remembering who you are, while still exploring the different aspects of yourself and adding things to yourself that make you the being that you are. We should have been taught at an early age that it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to be open to growth and be open to evolve. Teach your kids that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to want to understand the outer world around you. It's okay to want to understand yourself and who you are as a being. It's okay to explore so that you can know 100% that this is who you are. Speaking from the mind of those of you who are in situations where you don't feel loved or you are not guided, take it upon yourself to guide yourself, to find some principles, to love yourself, to start to love yourself, to learn to do things that help you love yourself more, to find yourself, to remember who you are. You have to take it upon yourself to do these things and to look for people outside of your toxic family that help you do these things because they are so important. I mean, for me personally, just speaking from my own experience, at one point in time I was a little lost, but I've never been down like a dark hole to where I questioned who I was as an individual, if that makes sense. Now, I have struggled with insecurities majorly, and I do still struggle with them from time to time. But for the majority of my life, I grew up in a pretty loving family for the most part. So I can say that I personally never struggled with wondering who I am as an individual. But for those of you that are going through that, your family is not the only people in your lives that you can look to find out or to remember who you are. There are people like me in this world who make these videos for people like you that are trying to figure out who they are. Find yourself, love yourself. I love you for you. You know, there is no cap at growing. No matter what kind of past you came from, you can always change and become the best version of yourself. Do not limit yourself based off your past decisions. Do not limit yourself based off your past experiences. You are open up to limitless possibilities. And there is a never ending stream of evolution in front of you. Walk the path. Find you. Remember you. Focus on you. Be in the present. The past does not define you, and the future does not confine you. So enjoy the journey. This is for you. If you're listening and this resonates with you, this is for you. Okay? This video right now that you're watching, if you're watching this, if you're seeing this in real time, this is for you. You found me for a reason. Now, please don't go against your guides and skip past the video. Watch it. Learn from it. Take what you can from it. Let it be a guiding tool for you. There is so much out here in this world for us to experience and for us to relearn. Because remember, there is nothing new under the sun. Don't get too caught up in the bullshit that you forget to work on yourself. Don't get too caught up on the bullshit that you forget to work on your family. Don't get too caught up in the bullshit that you forget who you are and that you forget where you're trying to go and who you're trying to be. Don't get too caught up in the bullshit that you forget who you are and where you're trying to go and what you have to do. There's a lot of bullshit here to distract you, but I'm here to tell you it's time for you to get back on track because you got things that you need to get done and you're getting distracted. You're wasting time. Go out and experience life. If you're struggling right now, because I know a lot of us are struggling, the economy is fucked up, everything's a mess. But if you're struggling right now, figure out what you need to do to get your life back on track. You're in a fucked position? Okay, cool. Accept it. Move on. Who do you need to reach out to get you out of the position that you're in? What do you have to do to get yourself out of the position that you're in? How can you get yourself back on track? There's always a solution to a problem that you're experiencing. Never feel like that the problem is only a problem and there's only more problems that can happen and you can never find a solution because that's bullshit. There's always a solution to a problem that you're having. So you need to do the work to figure out what that solution is instead of getting off track and getting distracted by the bullshit that's surrounding you because you got a person that you want to be. You got things that you want to achieve. And I believe that you can do that, but you're wasting time. You're losing focus. Get back on track. We got shit to do. Okay? YouTubers like me are here to help and guide you, to help you relearn and to help you become the person that you want to be. Be present, make meaningful relationships, ground yourself, find yourself, and always remember that there's infinite possibilities and opportunities for growth and love. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week.